Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21 Hats podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Feldman. This week, we talk about confronting inflation, raising your own prices, what businesses owe their employees, and the venture-backed competitor who's opening a store in Jay Goltz's backyard. Among the questions we discuss are, would you take back a rebound employee? Are unemployment payments the main reason owners are struggling to fill jobs? Is there anything wrong with taking business away from another business? How many companies are truly disruptive? And do owners take all of a business's risk, or are there risks for employees too? Even in good times, owning and running a business can be a lonely pursuit. Our hope is that these weekly conversations will let owners know they are not alone in facing challenges. Same thing with our daily newsletter, the 21 Hats Morning Report, which highlights the most important news of the day for business owners and which you can subscribe to at 21hats.com, where you can also find transcripts of our podcast episodes and lots of other articles and interviews. One programming note, we will not be publishing podcast episodes the next 2 weeks. Our next episode will drop, as we say in the podcasting business, on Tuesday, June 3rd. But fear not, you do not have to face the next 2 weeks without hearing my voice. On each of the next 2 Tuesdays, I will publish a 21 Hats video conversation at 21hats.com and in the Morning Report. The first one will be a terrific discussion about employee ownership featuring 2 CEOs who have adopted employee stock ownership plans and one who is a skeptic. Now, on to today's episode. Joining me this week are regulars Paul Downs, who is founder and CEO of Paul Downs Cabinet Makers, which makes custom conference tables outside of Philadelphia, Jay Goltz, whose companies in Chicago include a picture frame business, Artist Frame Service, and a home furnishing store, Jason Home, and Dana White, who is CEO of Paralee Boyd, a chain of hair salons based in Detroit. The episode is titled, We're Raising Wages on Everybody. Welcome, Paul, Jay, and Dana. Great to have you here. Thanks so much for joining me. Last week, we did a sort of a recap of where we stand with COVID. And now, at least from what I'm reading, the topic of the moment seems to be inflation. So our concerns seem to have shifted from COVID to inflation. And I guess that's kind of progress of a sort. But I'm wondering if it's affecting your businesses. Paul, let me start with you. One of the things that everybody's talking about is the price of lumber. You make custom tables, custom conference tables out of wood. Is this a problem for you?
No.
Why not?
Because the price of the particular kinds of wood that we use have not changed. As a matter of fact, some of them have gone down. So a couple of weeks ago, hearing all this inflation talk and wood talk, I decided to pull out my pricing spreadsheet and check the default prices we use against recent invoices. And I found to my surprise that most of the major sheet goods, and these are things like MDF and plywood that is not used in home construction, this is furniture grade, the price had actually gone down by 10 to 15% since the beginning of the year. Now, when we're buying 2x4s and oriented strand board, which we use to make crates, that is used in home construction, and those prices have gone way up. But that's a pretty small percentage of our material costs. So I would have to say it's more or less a wash for us.
So wait, why did it go down?
Good question. Probably because a new factory came online, or who knows, or because furniture factories were running slower than than they may have anticipated, and there was plenty of supply. So lumber prices go up and down, and they don't always go up. Sometimes they go down. So that's the best guess I can give you.
What else do you buy a lot of? Are you seeing inflation in any other areas?
Labor, to a certain extent. Freight costs, freight's going through the roof. And but most of the things that we buy, no, I haven't actually seen much change.
How about you, Dana? Are you seeing any inflationary pressure?
Nope, not at all. No inflationary pressure. Noticing a little higher on shipping, but that's about it.
How about for labor? Are you having trouble keeping people, finding people?
Oh, man. I'm really fortunate to have the operations manager that I do. Her background is recruitment. So in her work, recruitment is 24/7, 7 days a week. So she's constantly doing it. She said, I do it throughout the day. And, with the list of other things that we have to do for the business, recruitment is key. We did just have a manager resign, and we're okay with that. She said, nope, we're okay. I'm ready for that. And we're not going to replace her. We're going to, operate with the operations manager and the manager. But we are fully staffed. We've had low staffing numbers, but not to the point where it's been a concern of where it affects our operations.
Jay, how about you? Are you facing any inflation issues?
Yes, all over the place. Cardboard has skyrocketed because all these at-home shipments. We just got notice 8% and I ship. My wholesale business ships out frames every day and packages, and they're all in cardboard boxes. So that's a huge hit. The containers I get from Europe with molding on, the container prices have gone up dramatically. Plexi's gone up dramatically. Glass has gone up some. Labor, I'm in Chicago. So every year for the last, 4 or 5 years, they've gone up $1, the minimum wage. So this year it topped out at 15. Going forward, it's just going to be a cost of living increase. But that has caused compression in my pay because, it used to be the people that were here for years made $4 an hour more, and now it's less. So it's not running all the way through the place. Everyone's not getting $1 raise, but it certainly is affecting the labor, and we're raising wages on everybody.
Do you have openings?
Well, I just had a very unusual event. I just had someone quit after 15 years. He worked in the frame cutting department. He says he's getting $1 an hour more, and he didn't get his raise review yet. It was going to be in June. We would have come close to that. He didn't say where he was going, which tells me there's not a whole lot of competitors in Chicago that are cutting frames to hire someone like that. So I have a good guess where he's going, and my guess is that he's going to a place that another guy had left a while ago. He wanted to come back. We didn't want him back because he wasn't worth bringing back, and we suspect he called him and recruited him. And we're sitting tight because we think there's better than a 50-50. He's going to call us in 2 weeks and want back, because this is the part they never ask. Yeah, you can pay someone $1 an hour more. The question is, are you going to give them 40 hours a week? Because the game is they leave, they're there for a week or two, and they start cutting their hours back. This has happened before. This happened to this guy. So we think there's a 50-50. He's coming back. And I would take him back. He left, he gave notice. And
you said his raise review hadn't come up yet. Did you offer to match?
Well, that's a good question, because I just asked the manager that. He didn't. And I said, maybe we should have. And he agreed. It would have been smart to say, just so you know, this is what your raise is going to be. But we're going to sit tight for a couple of weeks and then call him and, let him see what goes on there. Because there's 3 things that you don't know at this level that he didn't really check out. The first thing is, are you going to get full hours? 2, what kind of environment? I have a nice, big, bright, clean factory with a nice big cafeteria room and nice bathrooms. And lockers. I have a nice place. A lot of these places they go to work are, in very dark and dingy places, maybe in a basement, and it's not a great environment. So that's 2. And 3 is, what's the management like over there? Someone coming down and screaming at you every couple of days because they're mad about something. I mean, we treat people well, and I think that people, especially people that have been there for 16 years, probably haven't had a lot of other jobs. So,
well, why do you, after 15 or 16 years, why do you think he left for $1 an hour?
Because I think that this guy did a sales job on him. And $1 an hour. I mean, for it, I don't think it was great for us not to say, just so you know, you're going to get a raise. On the other hand, what about his side? Why didn't he ask? Listen, I know my raise review is coming up next month. Do you know what I'm going to get? He should have asked. I think that he got sold a bill of goods from this other guy. And who knows what goes on in his head. And he's not, I have to say, he's on the lower end of, he's he's not one of the best people. If he was one of the best people, I'm sure the manager would have worked harder to try to keep him. He was barely, frankly, there's always a line. He was barely acceptable, not reliable, barely reliable. So he was right at the bottom of the tier. So if he doesn't come back, can we do better? At this market, I would have tried to keep him probably because it's kind of tough to hire right now. But so we're going to wait and see what happens.
Have you done this before? Hired somebody back?
Yeah, not a lot because it usually doesn't. I had one case where I had like a great delivery guy, and he wasn't happy with his raise. But the reality is, people frequently aren't happy with their raise, and he stops by the office because he brings me stuff once in a while, and he tells me he's leaving. I go, "What do you mean you're leaving?" And I asked for a raise, and they didn't give it to me. I go, "Why didn't you say something?" I'm sure that my manager said, "If you're not happy, go talk to the next guy in charge." He didn't bother. He left. I did have a conversation with my manager saying, in most jobs, listen, you can always, if someone quits, you can always say, "Oh, we should have paid him more." Well, you can lose control of your payroll that way. I mean, you can't just go paying everyone more just in case someone wants to quit. But in this particular case, he's a truck driver and there's a demand for truck drivers. So we waited a few weeks. We called him. He was happy to come back. We paid him more, but he found out the world's not such a kind place. He was driving a refrigerated truck that was breaking half the time. They were sending him out in the mid-afternoon to sit in rush hour. He was getting home it was a brutal, bad job, and he was thrilled to come back, and we were thrilled to have him. So I would never take somebody back if they quit. Sometimes you got to let people go, check out some other options.
Paul, Dana, have you guys done this?
Yep.
I don't have any objection theoretically to taking someone back.
Some people do.
Yeah, no, my old partner was adamant about it. And no, I did take a guy back once. No, I've done it twice. And both times it didn't work out in the long term, but it could have. My partner hated it, though. He hated the idea. He always wanted to make an example out of anybody who left. And
wow.
So it would be if someone...
What did that mean?
Well, if someone quit and they wanted to come back, his thought was you then tell the rest of the employees, like, see, he quit, and I'm not taking him back. He made his bed, he can lie in it. And I think that's debatable. Because in both cases, when I had people come back, they brought news similar to what Jay said about what the rest of the world was like. And the desire to come back was a strong endorsement that we were a good place to work. And those guys ultimately left mostly not because of something we did, but because they had problems that caused them to me not wanting to have them around.
Right. I mean, how great do we look that the truck driver guy came back and we were happy and we treated him nice.
And it worked out.
And it worked out great. No, he's there. And I was, I took a little responsibility that I said we probably should have paid him a little more just because it was a truck driver thing. But we were happy to have him back. He's happy to be back and all's good. I just think, why would you not? People sometimes, in this particular case, the one that just left, I'm sure someone sold him a bill of goods and God knows what they told him. And you can blame somebody for trying to make a little more money.
Dana?
It also depends on why they left. I've hired people back. And again, I'm in a business that is different for the people that work for me. So the people that work for me are used to having a lot of autonomy, wearing what they want, coming and going as they please, giving whatever level of customer service that they feel like. And so they come, even though we communicate to them saying, hey, this is what this is, but they come to the salon thinking, they nod, they put on the best performance to get the job. And then when they get in there, even though it's everything we told them it was, everything the video said it was, they're still finding it an adjustment. And then they leave and realize it's harder out here because when I'm not at Paralee Boyd, I have to pay for everything. I have to pay for my booth. I have to pay for my flat irons. I have to pay for all my product, and I still need to get people in the salon. So at Paralee Boyd, everything is provided for you. And so we've had girls leave and come back because it was really hard. And we encourage them. We don't necessarily not want you to go. We want you to grow as a stylist. But we still think you should eat while you're doing it. I've had stylists come back and tell me, I thought I wasn't getting enough money here. Then I went and had booth rent. I had 4 clients for the week because I'm not a good marketer. I haven't put myself out there. And my booth rent was, $150, and I made $200 that week. And I still had to buy product, put gas in my car, pay for my life. I was only $50 and market myself. So a lot of stylists didn't really realize the business side of it, or when there's a dry spell, and for some reason you've, switched salons and not everybody came with you and money is tight, they like having a reliable check. I actually received a resume last week. She said, "Hey, has she worked here before?" I have a list of do not hires. And when we're recruiting, we see a resume we like, they go through that list of do not hires. And those are the people who, it was just a lot of drama. We had to call the police on them. It's just bad.
That's probably a good policy not to rehire someone that you had to call the police on. That sounds solid.
Jay, we got into this talking about inflation, and you were saying that it's significant for you kind of across the board. What are you doing about it?
I'm trying to keep expenses under control, but we're having to put through some price increases. It is what it is. I've learned one of the biggest mistakes business owners makes is just absorbing it, and you can't. When I was doing business speeches, actually a hair salon company hired me to do a speech to their customers, and I asked the people in the audience, who's raised your prices in the last 3 years? And they're the worst at it, because this is they're right there with the customer. They're afraid of raising. They're charging $32 now. And if they think they go to 33, the salon people are all worried about the clients are going to get mad at them. And I would say, unlike businesses like mine, when you get an increase on a raw material and you've got a multiple, you mark it up. In a salon, it's trickier because it's not like Dana got a big increase on her cardboard prices this week. So there's not as much, a trigger to say, oh my God, we got to raise prices. So, places that are all service, I think, are more vulnerable to not raising their prices along with the cost of doing business, because they don't have the material cost.
Well, it's also harder for Dana because she's got a list price. Everybody knows what it costs for her service.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true.
And you factor in the frequency in which my guests come to the salon, it's a monthly bill. So if you're coming twice a month and you're paying $80 and now you're paying $100, right? That can be a challenge for some people. That's an extra $20. So for most, it's okay. But I think the best thing I ever did was raise my prices because I hadn't done it.
We talked about that a little bit here, didn't we?
Yeah, I needed to do it.
I think people that are in business need to do the math, and you have to accept, will that extra $1 lose a customer? Yeah, maybe. I'm not saying it won't, but you make up for it in the other 99 that paid the $1, or the other 97 or 96 that paid the $1. It's price elasticity.
Let me ask you this. Is there a silver lining in all this talk about inflation? Does that make it easier for all of you to raise your prices, even if you don't really need to? I mean, Paul, if you told a potential customer that you had to raise prices because of the cost of lumber, I don't think anybody would argue with you, even though you've told us that's not really a problem.
Well, I mean, to the extent I forgot about cardboard, we actually buy a lot of cardboard. So some of my prices have gone up, but the nature of my product is just it's not something that has a normal price. Every job we do is custom, and we always adjust our pricing to suit the customer. We don't even make the same thing and sell it to two people at different prices. We just always make a different thing. So it's a little bit harder to just post a counterfactual where there was some other price that was unaffected in this transaction.
Dana, how about you? Is this an opportunity for you to raise your prices a little bit more?
No, we're not going to raise our prices, but we've added treatments. We've added more services. I raised my prices less than a year ago. I don't want to do that again. I'd rather upsell. What are some things we can put in place to make it that are useful for our guests. And when we brought those treatments in, and we upsell those treatments, and they're treatments that people want. So the ticket prices are higher. Also, we have retail, and we include some of our retail in our treatments, which allows for them to have a discount, if you will. So no, we're not going to raise it due to inflation. We're just adding treatments and then selling those treatments. And that in turn raises our prices.
I would say this. I bought real estate along the way to house my businesses. And, if you own real estate, inflation is a good thing. I mean, you're leveraged on the real estate. You've got 20% into it. If your real estate goes up 2%, that's a 10% return on your money right there. So, if you own real estate, this is another reason to own real estate. Inflation over a long period of time, makes a lot of money versus your rent just going up.
Something else I wanted to talk about today, and maybe it's a factor in your employee situation, Jay. I'm wondering if any of you are dealing with employee burnout. There's been a lot in the news about that lately as well.
Yes.
Yes.
I had 2 salespeople. One of them was here for 15 years. Again, I don't turn a lot of people. Part of this is COVID, no question about it. The anxiety level for everyone has been higher. They're dealing with the public. They got plexi in front of them. They're wearing masks, the whole thing. People need to realize that people that are dealing with customers all day long, it's very different than someone that's working in an insurance office and doesn't see anybody, or they're working out of their house. This is far harder on people who are out there all day long dealing with 20, 30 customers a day. And I would say that it is related to the 2 people that have just quit, that was really just pushed it over the top.
Did you see that coming?
I kept saying, I've said it on this podcast, everyone seems like they're okay. They're not okay. So a little bit, it hasn't been horrible. I got 130 employees. I've lost 3, so it's not like it's terrible, but absolutely related to COVID. They already had some anxiety. This just pushed it over the top. And in one case, the spouse got a big job promotion. They didn't, the money wasn't as critical. And the other one, broke up with the boyfriend, so didn't have someone paying half the rent. So there was some money stuff involved. But it's not all COVID, I wouldn't say. But it's a mix. It's the whole mix. So I've got some new people starting, and they're very excited.
Was it hard to find them?
Not really. We put the same ad out we always put, and we got a really good applicant. Now, if I wouldn't have gotten this one really good applicant, would have been, I didn't get 3 great applicants. I got 1 great applicant. So, it's definitely a little harder. And I saw President Biden the other day saying something about that this unemployment extra money is not affecting people looking for jobs, because if they get offered a job, they have to take it. What fantasy world is he living in? How would the government know if somebody offered someone a job and they didn't take it? I absolutely know for a fact it's not helping any. I'm not saying it's the entire problem, but it is absolutely a factor that there are people that are getting more money in unemployment than they're getting going to work. I'm not saying it's I don't know how big it is, but it's certainly a factor.
How do you know it for a fact?
Because I know from personal experience of people that are doing it. I know from putting ads out, we're getting way less people. I mean, how could that not be having an effect? That someone can sit home and make more money sitting at home. How could that not be a factor? You're going to say no one in the world is going to say, oh, no, I need to go out and get a job. Of course it's a factor.
I agree with you. I think it is a factor. I think there are other factors as well.
Certainly.
And I think it's hard to know which is the more important factor.
But the president said it wasn't a factor because if they get offered a job, they have to take it. And that's not true. How would the government know if they got offered a job? So I think he overstated that one a little bit. That's supposed to be over, I believe, by September. Does anyone know?
I think that's right.
Laura, what are the other factors?
Well, for one thing, in the most recent job report, female employees have not been coming back. And that, raises an obvious question. Is childcare possibly a factor in this?
Absolutely.
Well, I don't think that's a question. Of course, that's a factor. Again, of course, it's a factor.
Which one is more important? I have no idea.
I'm not having a competition of what's most important. I'm saying these are all factors. That's all. These are all factors. There's some people who do not want to expose themselves because of either someone in their household or themselves. That's a factor. I'm guessing that that's probably the bulk of it, the unemployment, the taking care of children, and worrying about their personal safety or someone in their house. I would say those three factors have absolutely made it harder to hire right now.
I'm frustrated with the blame. I'm seeing a lot of blame on business owners. Well, if your staff members can make more money on unemployment than they do in your business, then you're a bad business owner. I've had staff come to me, not need a raise because of their output or what they're contributing at work, but they want a raise based on what's happened in their life. She came to us and said, hey, I need $2 more an hour because of what's going on in my personal life versus, hey, I deserve a raise because of what I'm contributing. And so when we tried to have that conversation with her, the response to us was, well, if you pay me more, I'll perform better.
Ouch.
That's not how I knew it to work. I was under the impression of you perform, you show your value, and the company pays you. That's not the culture for the culture of the people that work with me. That's not it. If you want me to do better, you'll pay me more and then I'll do better. I'm of the mind and you have to go find a job that meets your lifestyle. And then her response to me was, well, what can I do? I graduated high school. I've got a cosmetology license. That's it. And I've got 2 kids I need to feed. I need you to help me. And I said, yes, but I need you to perform so I could pay you. You know what I mean? So
that's a very sad story because this woman has not figured it out and she's going to struggle now. And it's unfortunate that she hasn't figured out that she's supposed to work hard at a job and that's how you make more money.
Were you able to convince her, Dana?
No, she took it to the customers.
That's a problem.
Yeah, it was a problem. And she, said, well, what did you expect me to do? And right in the middle of telling her, I stopped because I realized she just didn't get it.
Very good.
She said, if you'll just give me the raise, I'll stop telling the customers that you don't know how to pay your people. And I said, no. You'll have to go to another salon.
Dana, have you had successes as well? Have there been people that came in with similar attitudes that you've been able to talk to and explain how it actually is supposed to work?
Yes, and they left. One girl left, which was great, right? Which was like, okay, you have to go do what's best for you. But the mentality of some of the people that have worked for me is, Dana, no, you're rich. You own a business. Your job is to make sure I'm okay. And I'm supposed to do what I feel like doing.
The moral of the story is there's some people in the world who don't get it. There are people in this world who thinks they should do just what's barely acceptable to their job. And that's a lot of the population.
I will say a lot of the population has worked for really terrible bosses and really terrible companies, and
sure,
that has bred some of that. Not your companies, of course. Paul, what's going on with your employees? I know you've told us in the past that they tend to be quite stoic. It might be harder for you to know, but do you think you have burnout issues in your shop?
I haven't seen evidence of it, so who knows? But they show up, they work hard, team gets along. It's probably easier because what we do has an inherent satisfaction to it. It's just cool to make cool things, and it's a good team, and I think I'm a really good boss. So I haven't really had anybody who's said anything to me. I think we've also tried to be very flexible in our response to the situation. And the statement you made, Dana, like, you're rich, you have a business, you should take care of me. I actually don't disagree with that as long as they hold up their end of the bargain, which is, I'm rich because you do your job. And if we can make a prosperous company together, then the prosperity should go to everybody to the extent that it's reasonable.
Jay, did I hear you choke there for a second?
Yeah, Jay probably just vomited all over his keyboard.
No, I don't want to give I think people should be paid well. I think people should make market wages. I think people should get rewards if things are going well. But there is a line there between the one that owns the company that has all the risks, that has had to fuel the company and had to mortgage their house. This isn't socialism. There is a line there. So I hear what you're saying. I don't know that I disagree. I just think that there is a line there to where the owner of the company who took all the risk, who continues to take the risk, that has all the exposure, should be compensated for that. And that's all.
Well, let me just challenge you on that. Who's taking all the risk? So when someone comes to work for you, they're foregoing all other opportunities. And so that's a risk, right?
Not really.
Not really.
I disagree. I think that the people who come and dedicate, my employees put a ton of energy into making this place succeed. And all of us have to be pointed in the same direction. Now, I've had a good experience with employees on the whole, and I can certainly see that, Jay, you've had a lot more employees than I have, and Dana, it sounds like your employees are just different from mine, or some of them anyway, and that would certainly change my opinion if I'd gone through the last 30 years in different atmosphere. But based on my experience, I see it's been a partnership between me and my employees, and when we all got clear on what we were doing and what was the result of doing a good job, then the company worked much better.
But it sounds like you're saying it's a risk for the person who goes to the casino because they chose to go to that casino and put their money all on black, or, you know what I mean? Like, they take a risk by foregoing other opportunities through their choice. The second that they choose not to, I guess, take that risk, they apply and go somewhere else. I mean, I think we're using the word risk I don't know if the word risk applies. It is different kind of risk, but yeah.
Paul, you're making a lot more money than they make. Yes?
So?
Right. You did exactly what I'm talking about. The reason why you're making a lot more.
I'm not making as much as I could make, though.
I don't know.
If what?
If I was less generous to the employees.
I don't think this has anything to do with generous. You're not doing it just because you're a good guy. You're doing it because, well, partially it's because they're working hard and you want to keep good and valuable employees and you're paying them well. But if you totally subscribe to your whole thing with they're taking all this risk also, then you would say, well, I don't want to make too much money. I'm going to make sure I share it with everyone. But you're making what you probably should be making running that company, taking all the risks that you're taking. So you are working in the capitalistic model of the owner who took the risk, who put the money in, who signed the leases, who takes all the legal exposure. You're being compensated for that. You could have said, well, I think I'm going to just pay everybody another $10,000 this year and take a pay cut. But you haven't done that because you're paying them well enough.
Well, there have been occasions when I did that. Well, how about this form of risk? What if I drop dead tomorrow?
Yeah. That's risk on them.
So this company would not survive that. And they have, some of them have been with me for many, many years, and their resume has been, or their whole work experience has been tailored to exactly what we do and what I want us to do.
Yes.
And so that they're not as well prepared to ride out an event like that, and that they've given up other opportunities. I think that to say that the owner takes all the risk and the employees take none of the risk is just, that doesn't strike me as right. That there's various risks spread all around. Now, the financial risk, sure, that's mine.
The capital risk. I mean, it's a financial risk for an employee, too. As someone who has spent most of his career as an employee, I got to side with Paul a little bit on this one.
Wait, there's no siding here. I'm not saying that it's wrong to make sure that your employees make enough money that if you drop dead, they're okay. There's no argument here. It's about the words. My guess is Paul is running his company very similarly to the way I'm running my company. My turnover is less than 10%. I have lots of employees that have been here 25 years. I am concerned about their long-term welfare. I'm guessing that we're running the businesses exactly the same.
I think you're right. It's a semantic issue, Jay,
Yeah.
and it's something that you often point out. I think it's a question of absolutes. Is it all the risk or most of the risk or all the risk of involving capital? But there is some risk for an employee who chooses to forego other possibilities and could be hurt if something went wrong at the place they do choose to work at.
But my whole point with the risk is the owner has every right, and it's only fair, and I really avoid using that word, it's only fair and right that the owner gets compensated for the financial and the hours and everything else that goes along with owning a business. There's nothing, I'm here to say, there's nothing wrong with the owner of a company making a really, really good living because they own the company. That's all I'm saying. That this idea that, oh, wait, all these people worked hard, I should share. Yeah, you share to a degree. I'm not arguing that. I'm just going, and the proof's in the pudding in this case, because I know what the numbers are with Paul, because we've talked about it. You're not one of those guys that goes, no, I'm just going to pull, I'm not going to make any more than 25% more than my top person there. You haven't done that because that would be silly and not necessary. I think you're treating your people well. You're making a nice living from it. You're making what somebody running a size business of yours should be making. So I think you have a healthy situation there.
Thank you.
So I don't think there's a debate here at all. It's the words we're using. And I just don't want to make it sound like, it's capitalism. Sorry. I hate to use the ugly word.
Let's move on to another topic. One more thing I want to cover today, which is, Jay, this involves you. I saw a note the other day that FrameBridge, the online framing service, is opening or has plans to open a brick and mortar store in Chicago. And I'm wondering what you think of that.
I'm not their accountant. Everything is private. All I know is the person that started it just...
This is a venture-backed company that raised a lot of money and suggested they were going to disrupt the industry.
I think $90 million or something. Yeah. And keeps talking about disrupting. All I know is it's 7 years later. It's still being called a startup. I don't know what it's disrupting. I'm sure they're doing some business, no question. I'm sure they have some happy customers. But like I said, the person that took it over is with a big holding company and has some money. I don't know what to think. All I know is I haven't seen the disruption. It's been 7 years.
Wasn't part of the idea that they could charge less because they wouldn't have brick and mortar stores?
Yes, very good, Lauren. You're a good student. Yes, that was part of their spiel. So now they have stores. So I like I said, I'm not on their board. I don't have access to their numbers, but where did that $90 million go? It had to be funding losses. Where else would it go? They didn't invent synthetic blood or something. I mean, it's $90 million is gone, and it's 7 years later, and now someone took it over for the famous undisclosed amount. And you know what? You've seen it. I've seen it. I have no idea how it's working.
Their original idea was that everything would be done, by shipping, I guess. They wouldn't have stores. In your experience, are people willing to ship expensive artwork?
Well, clearly some people are because they're doing some business. I'm not arguing it. There are some people that are doing business with them. I just think my guess is half of that business would have never gone into a brick and mortar store in the first place. And then since clearly this is a fact, I saw it online. I believe it is a fact. They've gone through about $90 million. So when you're losing money, you can charge whatever because you're getting funded. So at some point, the business has to make money. And the word never been associated with any of the articles I've read or any of the thing I've heard is no one's ever used the P word. That would be profitable. So I'm assuming they're still not profitable.
Are you concerned about the impact on you?
No, because my customer base wants beautiful custom framing properly done with a professional behind a counter that knows what they're doing. And I don't think that this business model of, first of all, calling custom framing when you've got a very limited selection, then you really don't understand custom framing. It's semi-custom framing. My customers enjoy, appreciate, and want to pay for the experience of having a tremendous selection to make that picture look perfect. And everybody isn't just looking for a plain, simple frame around their thing. For that market, I'm sure they're doing some business, and I'm sure there's some people that are happy with it. I don't see how it's going to disrupt this industry. And it's been 7 years. Let the disruption begin. But it hasn't. I mean, they don't have, I'm guessing, but I don't think I'm off on this. They probably have 1% of the market, maybe 2%. That's not disrupting them. This isn't Uber. I mean, I'm not a taxi company, and Uber came along. So I'm not losing any sleep over it. I'm like I said, I'm sure they've got some happy customers, but customers that want beautiful framing and a selection and service, it's a very different model. And then shipping your artwork, by definition, if you've ever framed anything, when you have better artwork, it's got to be hinged so that it's basically just hanging in the frame. You can't really ship that properly because the jostling in the shipping is going to release. So there's some stuff you can't ship. And then once again, cardboard's gotten more expensive. Shipping costs have gone up. There's not any great efficiencies to going shipping everything from a warehouse so I don't know. Like I said, I don't have access to their books. Yes, they're opening some stores. Who knows how that's going to go? I have no idea. And it is what it is.
Dana, do you feel that you've been in competition with venture-backed businesses?
No.
No.
Not at all. I'm waiting for the next walk-in only hair salon to open, and we'll see. I know there's a young lady in San Francisco who's backed by Serena Williams' husband.
That would be the founder of Reddit, right?
Reddit. Yep. Alex Ohanian. But yeah, there's that. But I look at my business as a disruptor. And when we franchise and have locations, across the country, there's going to be copycats who have learned and gotten up to speed on how to operate a walk-in only hair salon for a market of people whose hair is wrongfully been deemed challenging. I've done it, and and I'm already, almost 9 years ahead of where they're starting. And so to me, venture back a company, as soon as I see that you take appointments, I'm like, okay, on to the next. Because it's not the same.
How many companies truly are disruptive? How many industries can you think of? Okay, did Uber disrupt the taxi cab business? Absolutely, right? There's no question of that one. They keep losing money, but I assume it'll work long-term in some fashion. That certainly was a disruptor. Is Chewy a disruptor in the pet supply business that you can go online and buy from Chewy and it's, cheap and free shipping? Has that hurt the pet stores? Maybe. They're doing billions of dollars. That maybe, but I don't know that there's just not that many disruptors in the world, is my point.
I don't want to be a disruptor.
Really?
I don't want to be a disruptor.
You just said you were a disruptor.
I am, but it doesn't mean I want to be. Right? I don't necessarily want to be a disruptor. I want to offer an alternative.
Well, that's being disruptive if it gets popular enough.
It'll get popular, but it still won't. I don't want it to take away from the traditional hair salon. I still want you to go get your hair cut. I still want you to go get your hair colored. I still want you to, go get your hair braided, and you will. Those services are things that we don't offer. And there are businesses that thrive off of doing those services in addition to the services that I do. So
the person coming to see you is doing it at home by themselves now. Is that what you're saying?
The person that's coming to see me is coming to get their hair treated and to get in and out because they don't have the schedule or the time to either find a stylist or to sit in the salon all day.
All right. Well, I hate to say this, but this is why we do this podcast. That's a rather naive thing. You just finished telling us you don't want to take away from any salons, and now you're telling us you're taking away from the salons. Is there something wrong with taking some business? Is there really?
I think she's saying she wants to supplement what salons offer.
Supplement what salons are doing.
Can
right?
I jump
that's
in
what
here?
Uber
Maybe
is doing
is the word disrupt.
Yes, maybe.
Yeah, Uber is disrupting. You're not hailing a cab anymore. You're going on your phone and getting a taxi. At Paralee Boyd, I still go to my hairstylist, and then I also, for maintenance, go to Paralee Boyd.
But they're going less is the point, clearly.
Yes.
So it is going to take some market share from that. And all I'm saying is there's nothing wrong with that. You're providing another solution and
an alternative.
It is going to affect a little. I'm certainly not suggesting it's putting everyone out of business. It can't, but it is taking some market share. Let's not call it disruption because it's not true. I think, again, we're all on the same page once again, I think.
Once again.
I hate it when that happens. Oh, good. Go ahead, Paul.
Go ahead, Paul.
Not on the same page. I think this is a discussion about how poorly bullshit Silicon Valley terminology maps onto real life.
Yes, we're on the same page on that one, too.
Ding, ding, ding. We're on the same page.
What do you mean, Paul?
Well, this whole thing of you trying to claim that your business is a disruptor in order to get some attention, get some money, get whatever. Every entrant into a market has some potential to take business from others, and some new approaches to business have potential to make others work or less attractive. I mean, I've probably been as disruptive to the high-end conference table business as anybody, just because we got in with Google and people started buying this product a whole different way. I just had never really thought about it as a disruption until...
We should explain. When you say when you got in with Google, you mean...
Well, Google just chose me one day. But the idea that you would go buy...
It's not like they were your partner. I just want to make clear, you started showing up in Google searches, right?
Right. It was nothing that anybody in my company did. It just happened one day because we had some...
Early on in the evolution of the internet.
Very early on. And none of my competitors really thought that someone would buy $100,000 boardroom table from some guys they saw on the internet. That just wasn't a business model, and now it is.
To Paul's point, the word disruption is thrown around way too much. It seldom is accurate. There's very few cases that there's truly been a disruptive company out there. So once again, Paul, I know you're uncomfortable being on the same page with both Dana and I, but we are on the same page once again.
As long as I write the page, I'm fine with it.
You can have the page.
You got it.
My thanks to Paul Downs, Jay Goltz, and Dana White. As always, thanks for sharing, guys. Just don't agree too much, all right? Wait, don't leave yet. If you have a question or a comment that you'd like the 21 Hats owners to address, send it to me by replying to your morning report or by email at lauren@21hats.com. That's LOREN @21hats.com. Do it now before you forget. And don't be afraid to tell Jay what you really think. He can take it. And if you got something out of this conversation, help us reach more business owners. Tell a friend. Subscribe and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to the Morning Report at 21hats.com. This episode was produced by Jess Thuberon, founder of Blank Word Productions. Okay, now you can leave. Thanks for listening, everyone.